Now, friends and foes, I'm simply going to read to you every email I sent to that guy my mom met in the mental hospital she recently stayed at for 12 days. She came back and she's all gung-ho about now. She's talked to him. Nothing I've ever said has gone through to her, of course, but she's talked to him and now she's gung-ho about fighting Marion. Yeah, I'll believe it when I see it. Anyway, these are the emails in order that I have sent to this guy. Since, why not? You know, he wants to hear it. And remember, I sent a lot of these before I got an email from him. I won't read you the email from him, of course. But I sent these before I got any email from him and found out that, wow, he's very articulate, very knowledgeable in what he talks about in his email to me. And then I spoke with him on the phone for like a half hour last night. Very articulate, well-spoken, you know, in both his emails and in person. I mean, in over the phone, which is the same as in person, you know. Dare I hope for anything? No, but he's listening to me and he understands what I'm saying, and he 100% believes that Marianne has acted in more than one unethical, illegal way, you know. So in a lot of ways, she's, in regards to this power of attorney she's had over my mother, she has breached her contract, as he put it. Like I said, uses the big words. He's very well-spoken and well-written. I'm going to trust him for the fuck of it, for the hell of it, why not? But anyway, before I was going to trust him at all, I wrote to him because my mom wanted me to. I figured, why not? My mom's going to open up this can of worms. I'll tell this guy everything. Everything. Why not? Okay. Very first email I sent to this guy. The batteries are going to run out. When I don't have brand new batteries, it's a crapshoot, guys. So the batteries may or may not run out. 7113. This is Samantha's daughter testing if this email is correct. I don't want to send personal info to the wrong person. Laura. So that's the first one. And then 7113. If you wish to understand exactly what kind of shit we're dealing with here, Google D-U-R-A-B-L-E, power of attorney. I put that in bold and start reading. Did my mother tell you just how much I despise Marion? Laura. From the way he's been speaking to me, writing to me, he knows all about this shit. I'm sure he didn't have to Google it. He already knows, I guess. I don't know. It seems like he does. Okay. 7113. And this one I sent him a jester picture from California from a few years ago with me in Omer in a jester suit. This was taken in California. 7113. My email didn't come back to me, so I guess it reached you, huh, Ben? Okay. Now, here is just a quote-unquote taste of what has been going on between my mother, Aunt Marion, and me for years. I sent this out to two of my good friends. Plot thickens, huh? I now officially despise Auntie M even more, if that's even possible. So apparently Auntie Marion has even more reason, $50,000 worth of reasons, to relatively recently, 4 months ago, scream about me, had even more reason. These scathing words at my mom over the phone. She's a conniving bitch. She just wants power over your money. I'm going to have her thrown out of there. When all that I was trying to do was to help my poor, confused, easily manipulated, far too trusting, gullible mother with something Auntie Marion should have taken care of months before. My mother knows that I'm not after her money. My mother knows, even though Marion does not, that I have plenty of money of my own, and unlike my Aunt Marion, I'm not a greedy, sneaky little bitch, and I only have my mother's best interest at heart, always. What I'm fucking quote-unquote after is for checks and balances to be placed upon my Aunt Marion, whom, as things currently stand, can do anything she damn well pleases with what is supposedly my mother's substantial amount of money. Laura. Okay, now this is when my mom was driving me nuts, and I wrote to this guy because my mom was driving me nuts, and I was yelling at her, and she went and called this guy and was saying she's yelling at me and not saying why. 7213. If I do not get away from my mother, I'm going to wind up sectioned into a mental hospital, Ben. My mother is not even remotely telling you the truth as to exactly what she does that causes me to yell at her and then completely despise myself for my inability to control my temper when my sick mother continuously provokes me. I'm taking Omar and moving out of here ASAP, and once I do move out and am safely away where nobody in my fucking so-called family will know where I am, I will definitely be sending a nice little letter to Auntie Mary telling her point blank that I know everything. She can take her fucking barking collar and shove it up her cunt ass, and especially that I hope she chokes on her greed and her never-ending desire for control over my mentally ill mother. I'm walking away and I officially kiss my rightful inheritance goodbye. My mother can't function on her own, Ben. Equals my mother will likely wind up in a home, exactly where I know damn well Auntie M would love to see my poor sick mother wind up, so that my mother would no longer be any kind of burden on good old Auntie M. The end. Laura. P.S. My mother knows how absolutely smart I am. She knows that I'm a college honors graduate, yet she continuously does everything I say to her when I'm only speaking the goddamn fucking truth that my sick mother is unfortunately utterly blind to. Okay, now 7-2-13. Again. And now I can't remember what my mom was doing that day that was driving me crazy. But I believe I recorded a video. So yeah. I have to leave here, Ben. My mother has never wanted to fight Marion with me, and I finally simply gave up. I have to leave here, Ben. My mother has never, ever, ever truly, sincerely agreed to fight Marion with me. My mother has often even been 100% against me fighting Marion on my own, so I finally simply gave up and said fuck it all. I also understandably do not wish to live in any place where my longtime enemy can come in any damn time she pleases, because despite what my naive mother 100% believes to the contrary, my mother's home technically belongs to Marion. I hate myself when I yell at my sick mother, who endlessly provokes me into yelling at her, and then outright lies to her friend's family and tells the aforementioned people that I'm just being mean to her and yelling at her for no fucking reason at all, equals I want to fucking die. If I don't grab Omar and get as far away from my quote-unquote crazy mother as possible, I'm going to wind up sectioned into a mental hospital for the first time ever in my life, Ben, equals I can feel it. Okay, another one at 7-2-13. Batteries are running out. We're getting lucky here. This is a long one. The batteries will probably run out with my luck in the very middle of it. My mom, this isn't the subject ending, my mom has a tendency to lie, whereas I always tell the whole truth, even when said truth presents me in a negative light. Now, here we go with the email body. I get angry/agitated when I try to speak about things that upset me this much. Better that you, or anybody who cares, read my words. Just 3 months after Marion deigned to allow me to come stay with my mother after I had just spent 6.5 months at X shelter, Marion showed her true colors yet again, equals the second Marion justifiably suspected that I was influencing my mother to stand up to Marion and show the slightest bit of autonomy, Marion's claws came out, and the first thing that Marion did was what Marion knew would hurt my mother the most. Threatened to throw me out of my mother's home. Do you, quote-unquote, get what is happening here, Ben? Do you, quote-unquote, see why I'm at my breaking point? This shit has been going on for too many years, and I simply can't take it anymore. Marion could lie to the police about me, Ben. I wisely put nothing past this woman, whom I damn well knows wants my mother's estate for herself. Marion can enter my mother's home whenever Marion wants to do so, equals I can't stay here under these circumstances, /period. ... exclamation point. My schizophrenic mother sadly does not even remotely possess the mental abilities necessary for her to fully understand /grasp the nature of what I'm going through, what this is all doing to me, Ben. Explanation point by 1,000,000, okay? Times 1,000,000. Back in 2009, Marion declared as fraud legitimate charges that my mother had made on my mother's own credit cards while I was visiting my mother. Equals Marion did this for one reason only, to make it look like I had stolen my mother's credit cards. Yet my mother's ridiculous reaction to my desperate attempt to get my mother to finally realize just how deep Marion's evil went was, well, at least she reduced my credit card debt, Laura. Equals, yeah. By making me look like a criminal when she was the one who had committed a criminal act the second she declared those legitimate charges you had made as fraud. you had made Mom as fraud, That's my mom's reaction. Well, at least she reduced my credit card debt, Laura, never understanding the connotations, what this meant in terms of me, the only child that taught her, my mom supposedly loved, more than life itself, according to her, okay? Your mom doesn't understand. And equals, yeah, Mom, she reduced your credit card debt by making me look like a criminal when she was the one who had committed a criminal act the second she declared those legitimate charges that you had made as fraud. Okay? Then we put a little star. We give him another thing. My mother had promised to finally stand up to the family. Explanation point. My mother sent me the money, yet lied to the family and told them that my good friend had sent me the money to come here. So that Omar and I could fly here and I could try to heal from the abusive relationship I had been trapped in for 11 years. I arrived at X Airport on April 26, 2012, called up my mother and heard these shocking words spew forth from her lips. There's been a change of plans. You're going to X shelter. If you come here, you'll be arrested. On what grounds would I have been arrested, Ben? My mother wanted me here with her and there was no restraining order against me. Equals, this was simply yet another example of how easily my mother could be 100% fooled into believing any goddamn thing that anybody told her. The woman in the office here who hated me, still does, who was in cahoots with Mary and tricked my mother into falsely believing that I would be arrested if I came here. But then again, we all know, even if my mother doesn't, that durable power of attorney that my mother signed in 2000, yet was oblivious as to exactly what she was signing, made all of my mother's assets become my Aunt Marion's assets. In any case, when I understandably got a tad upset with the news that my mother was relaying to me, off the phone, while I was at the airport with Omar and his carrier next to me, below me, on the ground. Her reply was, and I quote, "Stop being so selfish. Aaron's dying. Don't upset the family." My mother can take her family and choke on them all, Ben. She always selfishly puts their feelings ahead of mine, and I'm done with it. My Aunt Erin has fucking been dying for nearly 19 months now. I want nothing to do with any of them because they all broke my heart in 2009 when they believed any fucking lie about me that spewed forth from Erin's evil, conniving lips. When I moved back here, my poor Aunt Marion got a quote-unquote free pass because she was dying and because eons ago I used to consider her one of my best friends and a second mother to me. But the rest of my so-called family can all go fuck themselves, especially Marion. Oh, to make this movie of the week shit even more interesting, Ben, my mother wasn't even aware of the existence of this durable power of attorney that Auntie M had over my mother until 7 or 8 years after my mother had supposedly signed the damn thing. This all came to light back in 2009, shortly before my mother had police escort me off her property because I had been quote-unquote yelling at her over exactly what I had found out when I took that durable power of attorney to the courthouse and received the shock of my life. See, Ben, when my mother gets sick, she hates Marion. But once Marion starts being nice to my mother forgets all about everything that Marion has done to either my mother or me. But I forget nothing, and that's where my absolute frustration and rage towards my mother derives from. In 2009, the only reason I found out about the exact nature of this power of attorney that my Aunt Marion had apparently had over my mother for 9 years was because after X mental hospital released my mother, who had unfortunately got sectioned yet again while I was visiting her, Marion started lying to my still sick mother and telling my still sick mother that I had stolen $3,000 from my mother's account. I hadn't stolen a penny from my mother, Ben, and her credit card had been locked up in the hospital safe the entire time anyway. Equals Marion was simply, as usual, trying to fuck with my mother's mentally ill mind. For some odd reason, my mother had the wherewithal to drive to her bank and request a copy of a check that, surprise, surprise, proved that I had not stolen $3,000 from my mother's account, that Marion had simply transferred the money elsewhere. At this time, I guess my mother decided to request a copy of that power of attorney. But once she got the document home, she changed her mind and forbade me to take it to the courthouse to find out what it was. I'm smart, so I not only stole the document out of my mother's drawer, pretended that pretended that I was simply going to the mall for the day and took the copy of the POA to the courthouse, I also started extensively researching durable power of attorney on the internet. What I found out only confirmed my worst fears about what Marion had been up to for years, and the rest was history. Star, star, star. This email doesn't even scratch the surface of what's going on here now and has been going on here for 5 years, Ben, but it's at least a start to help you to better understand where I'm coming from. Laura. Okay, it's that one. Then, another one on 7/2/13. Can't stress this enough in the subject heading. See, Ben? This is on 7/2/13 as well. See, Ben? Whenever my mother gets sick, she hates Marion. But once Marion starts being sickly sweet and nice to my mother again, my mother forgets all about everything that Marion has ever done to either my mother or to me. But I forget nothing, and that's where my absolute frustration and rage towards my mother derives from. For the sake of both my mother and me, I need to move out of my mother's home ASAP. I don't know if I'm supposed to say for the sake of both my mother and I. Okay? The English major isn't perfect and has never in her life professed to be quote-unquote perfect in grammatical instances or any other fucking life instance, okay? For the sake of both my mother and me, I need to move out of my mother's home ASAP. Laura. Okay. All right. Okay, now we're going to flash forward because I went away on vacation for a few days, from the 3rd to the 5th to be exact. And now on the 5th, when I'm back, and and it might be over between my shelter friend and me, totally my fault. In a single instance where I didn't treat her very well, but talk to her the way that I'm so used to talking to my mom, and I had no right to talk to my friend that way. She's not going to put up with it. So she ripped me a new one, and couldn't handle it, and I took off while she was in the shower, and she later called me in an email a fucking coward. Like, yep, I am a fucking coward who doesn't know how to communicate. Yep, I am a fucking coward who doesn't know how to communicate. Couldn't handle any of it, just slunk away. I mean, it's not like it killed her. She could stay in the room all the way till the checkout time at like noon or something if she wanted to. I didn't have to stay there. I wanted to go home. Just wanted to go home. Immature child, that's what I am. What do you want? I'm going through shit. Being around my crazy mother makes me crazy, makes me act in quote-unquote crazy ways, And I'm sorry. What more can I say to my shelter friend? I'm sorry. Forgive me or not, Anyway, to this guy, 7/5/13, on the subject, just a few more important things you need to know. My mother talks big, but when push comes to shove, my, capital letters, schizophrenic mother, who first became afflicted with the disease of schizophrenia when I was only 10 years old, I have that in parentheses, lacks the necessary courage to stand up to her very powerful half-sister Marion. And then I put in parentheses, whom I also irrationally, because it's irrational for me to continue to fear her, if we want to be really honest here. She can't hurt me anymore, I can leave. I have the financial means to leave and not be, dependent or wondering or waiting for Marion to throw me on the street like an animal, like she did, force my mother to do in 2009, okay? Whom I also irrationally fear, if we want to be really honest here. Marion is a very loud, in-your-face, abrasive type human being who knows exactly how to push your buttons and make you feel like a worthless piece of shit if that's the desired effect she's after. Next line. My mother will never be allowed to control her own money, and in parentheses, and circumstances have repeatedly shown this to actually be a good thing. Next paragraph. My mother doesn't want a stranger controlling her money, and since I have unfortunately been diagnosed as mentally ill myself, no judge will ever grant me control over my mother's money, or even grant me guardianship over my mother. Equals, if my mother has to choose between either a stranger or her half-sister Marion, when it comes to who will be allowed to control my mother's money, then my mother will always choose Marion, even if my mother's choice means that I will more than likely get fucked over in the end. Next paragraph. My mother even fears telling my Aunt Marion that my mother wants this house put into a living trust for me, my mother's only child whom my mother claims to love more than anything else in the world, my mother has every right in the universe to put this house into a living trust for me, Ben. I am my mother's beloved child and sole heir. Marion is my mother's half-sister. My mother has every right in the universe to want to protect my rightful inheritance via any means available to my mother. Next paragraph. I've finally completely given up. I periodically have capitalized words here, just like I do with you guys. I do on my YouTube videos and in writing and my descriptions, whatnot. I've finally completely given up when it comes to getting my mother to understand, or in the comments I've posted, thousands upon thousands of comments I've posted out on my various YouTube channels over the years, on my own channel, I've finally completely given up when it comes to getting my mother to understand any of this. I simply don't care anymore, Ben. I'm beyond exhausted in every way imaginable, and I simply don't care anymore. My Aunt Marion also has health care proxy over my mother. None of this was done through the court system. My mother has not a clue in the universe as to exactly what adorable power of attorney is, or what's in the health care proxy that my mother supposedly signed. The adorable power of attorney that appointed my half-Aunt Marion agent over my mother, the principal, all the way back in the year 2000 was drawn up by Marion's notary husband. Their 2 kids signed as witnesses, and the rest was history. I later found out that unfortunately nothing that Marion, her husband, and their 2 kids did was technically illegal, but it certainly wasn't, as the Jewish wife of a notary I called one day put it, quote-unquote kosher. Laura. P.S. I will call you sometime tomorrow, and you and I can chat on the phone for a bit. You can ask me anything you would like to ask me, and I'll try to answer your questions to the best of my ability. Okay. And then we have again on 7/5/13, because he put in his very well-written email, he doesn't go off and rant and rave and whatnot, and he says, well, it appears your aunt may have defrauded your mother. It appears your aunt may have behaved, he's going to do that because that's how you're supposed to talk to a lawyer, And then I wrote, and I'm not a lawyer, but I mean, he's acting as, he's acting mature and adult-like, while I act childlike and immature, Like I told him, I know how I have to act when I finally get to speak, hopefully, to an elder abuse lawyer or a lawyer who's an advocate for the elderly, who all this crap. But with Joe, with Ben, with Adam, doesn't matter if you know his first name anyway. His first name could be anything. My musician ex's name could be Ben or Adam or Michael or Joe or Henry or whatever. Who cares if you know first names. Anyway, there is no, I have put it here, there is no may have defrauded, in parentheses, in quotations, involved as far as I'll ever be concerned, Ben. But, there is no may have defrauded involved as far as I'll ever be concerned, Ben. But you have to understand that Marion is my mother's sister, whom my mother loves, trusts, and most importantly, desperately wants to believe loves my mother in return. None of this is on the up and up, Ben, and my Aunt Marion absolutely relies upon my mother's continued ignorance, trust, desire to see only the good in people, or to see only the good in people, and love for Marion to keep my mother endlessly in the dark as to what's really going on. Because he said things to me like, I understand your frustration, your mom's illness is difficult to understand, harder to live with, have patience. Based on what your mom has shared with me and what you've now shared, it seems probable your Aunt Marion may have defrauded your mom. blah, blah, blah. You need to call me. We need to cooperate. I'm going to suggest engaging an elder law attorney and several other advocates, and then review all the financial transactions since the power of attorney went into force. And that will be since the year 2000. So, going on 13 years now, This is what he wrote, more or less. I won't say verbatim what he wrote. And that was my reply, what you just wrote. There's no may have defrauded. I know damn well she defrauded. Not that she took my money. My mom's money. She didn't have to. It's her money. She's tricked my mom, Whatever. Okay, now, 7513. Again. Was, I sent these all on Friday. I talked to him last night, which is Saturday the 6th. I sent these out on Friday the 5th. It all makes me sick, Ben, or Adam, or Henry, or Joe, or Perry, or Stephen, or Victor, Michael. Doesn't matter what his fucking name is. Doesn't matter what my mom's name is. It doesn't matter what my name is. Right? It all makes me sick, Ben. But my mother fights Marion, and Marion is going to viciously turn on my mother. That's a given, right, babes? Babes, anyone who likes me out on YouTube, who doesn't just think I'm crazy and deserves to be, and someone who deserves to be locked up forever? No. We know Marion's going to viciously turn on my mom. My mother can't handle that, Ben. I justifiably hate my Aunt Marion, but my mother loves her. See, very short emails, but I told you I sent a lot of them. Now, I'm going to skip over all the stuff that I sent to my shelter friend with the subject heading, I'm very, very sorry and don't blame me at all if you no longer wish to be my friend. Okay? Now, let's go back to Ben. Another longish one here. Still on, oh no, this is 7613. And this is when I hadn't yet talked to him, okay, on the phone. And yes, I did enjoy my conversation. And even though I got agitated and angry, upset, and swore sometimes, he still got to speak to me, and it reinforced what I'd already written in my emails to him, okay? Anyway. Subject heading, my mother was completely unaware as to exactly what she was signing equals Marion tricked my mother. Okay. And down in here, regular. My mother was completely unaware as to exactly what she was signing equals and nothing else. My Aunt Marion most definitely tricked my mother. That's a given. She doesn't have to have used my mother's money in any way or whatnot. The fact is she tricked my mother into signing this thing in the first place. Okay. Marion likely has not used my mother's money in any illegal ways, Ben. In fact, none of this has really affected my mother in any significant manner, since my mom's fine and Marion gives my mother both plenty of money to live on and money for anything extra my mother may need. Marion doesn't have to actually steal any of my mother's money, seeing as it all belongs to Marion, and Marion knows that in the end it will all go to her. It's me who will almost inevitably be completely screwed out of my rightful inheritance by my half-aunt, who has been my long-time enemy, and since I no longer give a flying fuck about any of it, the point is moot. However, my true feelings in capitals are that Marion's ultimate plan is, and has always been, to get my mother put into a home and then legally sell this house. My mother doesn't want to believe, in parentheses, that she will ever reach a point where she needs to be put into a home. And again, let me stress to you that I wash my hands of all of it because I'm fucking sick of it all. Explanation times like 6 or 5. To the outside world, and this is very important here, people, my Aunt Marion looks like she's simply protecting her mentally ill sister from her mentally ill sister's daughter and friends. My mother doesn't need any of her money, Ben. What does she need any of it for when she has plenty to live off of and all her needs taken care of? For the sake of my own fragile, diminishing sanity, I wash my hands of all of it because I do not want to fulfill what I 100% believe is my Aunt Marion's secret desire to see me sectioned into a mental hospital, see me wind up just like my mother. I will answer any of your questions to the best of my ability, but sometime within the next 2 weeks I'm taking off to visit my good friend for probably a couple of months. I'm not going to my aunt's funeral. Parentheses, funerals aren't for the dead. Funerals are for the living, and I can grieve on my own. Period. Parentheses, okay? My so-called family isn't even going to allow my mother to see her beloved sister one last time before said beloved sister dies equals, oh well. Nothing I can do about any of this except to, as usual, feel bad for my poor mother, Laura. Okay? That's another one in 6:13 before I talked to this guy on the phone. And now... batteries are actually lasting a miracle, huh? These, I believe, yeah, these are now emails that I sent to Ben after I talked to him on the phone for about a half hour. He wants to talk to me again tonight, by the way. I'm just the daughter. This is the subject. I don't matter. Only my mother's half-sister matters. Can we all sing this along with my other, what did I say in my other video? A large part of me wants to die, and only stupid people would ever ask me why. Alright. Anyway, I'm just the daughter. I don't matter. Only my mother's half-sister matters. And I repeat it again in bold in the subject. In the body of the email. Now, another extremely clever trick my Aunt Marion has continuously used in order to keep my easily manipulated, far too trusting mother compliant was to tell my mother what may very well have been the truth. My mother has bluntly informed my justifiably frustrated, angry self on more than one occasion that Marion hasn't taken a penny for being my mom's POA, whereas a stranger would have to be paid a substantial amount of money to handle my mother's finances. Marion didn't have to take any money from my mom as a fee for being my mother's POA. Ben equals Marion has always been after the bigger prize. She knew that she was guaranteed to eventually receive, so long as my schizophrenic mother was forever kept in the dark. Marion would ultimately get to have it all, my mother's entire estate and assets, either in the event of my mother's unfortunate demise or in the sad event that my mother eventually wound up having to go into a home, parentheses, something I reluctantly believe is likely to take place in the near future, parentheses, ... Alright. Parentheses, yeah. Okay, we're getting here, and we're getting here, and the batteries have lasted. This is a fucking miracle, folks. Because I grabbed these batteries out of the drawer where I put batteries that supposedly had run out. My camera will say batteries run out, and it'll shut off, and then sometimes it'll still work for another long time after. It's kind of strange. Okay, now, I'm going to see how I'm going. 33. Battery's running low, guys. Might not get through this email. Let's see if we do. What I want